Good afternoon again, and people in Wareham and vicinity. Beautiful afternoon, September 8th. Got an awesome show for you today. Got a real well-known gentleman on the South Shore of Massachusetts on radio land. We're going to talk to him in a few minutes, a good friend of mine. But before we get to him, we've got to read these great underwriters, and then we will commence per usual. So, we got Salon Giovanni in Marshfield. We got Pembroke Radiator in Pembroke. We got Carver Jewels, Ronald R. and Lyle Delano in Carver. We got New England Floorscapes in Middleborough. We got Barnacle Monuments in Middleborough. We got Genuine's Inspection in Middleborough. We got Pacini's Pizza in Middleborough. We got Vape Solutions in East Bridgewater. We got Ocean Street Auto Repair and Service in Marshfield. We got Wicked Healthy Natural Foods and Supplements in Kingston. We got Tom Auto in Middleborough. We got South Shore Trains and more in Pembroke. We got the main ingredient, Just Good Food in Middleborough. We got Crazy Axes Recreation Center in Hanover. We got Giorgio's House of Pizza in Carver. We got Brian's Auto and Tire Service in Middleborough. We got the Gun Runner LLC in Middleborough, dedicated to your Second Amendment rights. And we got DNS Auto Works in Abington. I want to thank you guys very much. And on that note, I'll now introduce this young man here. This is Mr. Rob Hakala, Jr. He is the 5-day-a-week traffic guy and news guy on WATD, and he's also a reporter on WBZ for their traffic as well on Saturdays. I guess you call that a traffic reporter, and I met him many years ago. We've been friends for a long time, and today we're going to profile him and find out what his deal is, how he got to be where he's at in his life in radio and whatever else. So first of all, Rob, I want to thank you for coming in and being on Topic Time with me today, and thank you for being on time, being 15 minutes early, even better.
Happy. Yeah, no, I'm very used to a clock, Harrison, so you know a schedule's important, and it's great to be on your show.
Thank you, and it's great to have you. And of course, you guys may remember, some of you listeners for WATD, I was the radio station poet for also many years, the self-appointed king of sling, if you will. And Rob would introduce me, and when we end the show, I think I'm going to ask him for Old Lang Syne to do his old singing intro that he used to do when we were doing the poems. But first of all, I want to talk about what your deal is. So, Rob, tell me about, I know when I first met you on Wednesday, April 13th, 2005, Ed Perry was a really awesome guy that runs WATD. He was the chief cook and bottle washer. He also gave me he also knows creativity when he sees it. He knew that you had it. He knew I had it. When I met him for an interview about 10 days before that, or a month before that, we set up, he talked about, how would you like to try writing something for the station? And I did. And it was a silly hypothetical commercial for one of the package stores in Kingston, and you and I did it. He thought it was hilarious, so did his daughter Catherine, and we killed it. I still have it on a CD in my closet, Gathering Dust at home, but and that's fine. It'll always be a memento for what I did at the radio station. And so knowing that, when he introduced me to you, I said, "Oh, Rob Hakala, he's the voice of WBZ," because that's what I knew immediately. I've listened because I was a regular BZ listener on the weekends, or every day really. More because I always try to get my news fixed from them, because I always trusted WBZ, going back to the days of Dave Maynard and Gil Santos.
Yeah. It's going to be 100 years old, Harrison,
Me?
this month.
Oh.
WBZ.
Oh, they're 100 years old. They began operation in 1921. You got it. So you weren't working there then, obviously.
No, I was not. No,
Right. Okay, now. So what I do with every guest is I go back to their childhood, and I want to find out how they got where they're at now. Now, Ed Perry, who was a guest on my show, hard to believe, 10 years ago, Big Ed.
Wow.
And you probably know this story, too. I'm sure everybody at the station knows it. He told me that when he was a young man growing up in the sweet town of Natick, Metro West of Boston, he was so into being into radio that he decided that he would start his own makeshift radio station in his house. And the FCC clamped down on him like a vice grip. They sent this letter telling him to cease and desist. You're interfering with the Boston radio waves. Knock it off right now. And I'm sure you've read that letter many times, as have I, which is tapped on the wall at the WATD as you walk in the door on the right-hand side, just actually facing the opposite wall where the Edward R. Murrow Awards are. Look to be about 1,400 of them, which I'm sure you're part of, helping him win. All right, so what I want to know is, when you was a kid, were you as that daredevilish as he was, and what did you do to help get you in the radio?
Well,
can you tell me that, and if I have any questions pertaining to what you did, I'll throw them
yeah,
in.
no, I was not a daredevil in terms of, I never started a pirate radio station like he did. No, but I did love radio.
Okay.
And speaking of WBZ, that was the station I grew up listening to.
Okay.
So I would grow up and listen to Dave Maynard before I went to school, and Paul Perry and Bruce Stevens and David Brudnoy at night, and Larry Glick.
Larry Glick.
You
here?
Yeah, exactly. So that was the radio station that I grew up listening to. Probably around, I guess, 12, 13, 14 years old was when I really loved radio, and I had my own fake radio station at home.
Well, when you say fake radio station, what do you mean? You talking to a spoon?
Yeah, well, no, I had a microphone and a tape recorder.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Like a boom box like you had, the one with the 2 decks.
Like this, except nobody heard it except
nobody
people in the
heard
house.
it except in the house, and
Okay.
I got my friends involved, and so we had fake shows. And then every New Year's party, I'd do a live show from their family room.
Okay.
For the people at the
After
party.
the Three Stooges marathon ended?
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Got it. Well, okay, I understand. Or during the Three Stooges marathon. Cool.
So that's pretty much what I did, in terms of just really loving radio. And then I knew I wanted to do it as a career.
That's awesome. So during those parties, did any of your friends say you should definitely do this as a career? I mean, was it suggested to you by anybody?
Yeah, no, some people thought that I was really had a talent for it, a voice, and really knew how to do a program. And they said, yeah, if you want to do it, go do it. And, when you get to high school, sometimes you start thinking about, what am I going to do, for a career?
You already knew that before high school? Well,
yeah,
you had a pretty
about
good
middle
idea.
school, I would say.
Okay.
Junior high, middle school age, and then going to high school, most kids might listen to KISS 108 or WZOU at the
So
time.
basically, your thing was news,
Yeah,
more than music.
AM radio.
Right,
It was
okay.
full service radio. I liked it because Beasy at the time played music.
Yep.
They did news.
Well, they didn't do
did
much
talk.
music. They did mostly talk. And
Yeah, but during the day, up until the Gulf War, they were playing music.
Really?
Yeah.
You know something? I recall every now and then on Sunday mornings they play something like by the Foundations. They play every now and then they play a song, but not usually. It was like it was in the minority of the hours that they did it.
Yeah.
It wasn't as common as like FM radio. But
No.
But it's interesting you should say that, because here's the thing that you brought to mind about what I remember about you when I first met you, and as the years progressed and I did my poems, I noticed that you were not as much into music and sports, which is a big part of radio continuity, especially on the FM dial, as you were into just news and traffic. And I remember that because a bunch of years ago, I mentioned the band Weezer to you, and you didn't even know who they were. And if you're gonna be DJing on an FM radio station, you really need to know, bands like them, because they're a pretty big, heavy metal rock band. Although not too often do they play heavy metal rock on WATD.
No.
Okay.
But I should know who Weezer is.
That's okay. You do now.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. All right. So now what I'm trying to get at is why did you prefer traffic? Was that your favorite thing? Did you ever ride in a helicopter looking down at the traffic, or did you just get your reports?
No,
because that's all I ever heard you do at the beginning.
Yes, well, that's because that
WBZ.
was one of the first places I got a real full-time job in radio, was doing traffic reports.
Okay.
So I took it. I was happy to be on the
I
radio.
understand. All right.
Whatever I could get.
Okay, but so how was the traffic reports pumped through? If you didn't ride a helicopter or bang your chest like this to make it sound like you were, how did the reports get pumped into your brain so you could repeat them over the air to people to give them the details? How did that happen?
Well, I was trained by some great traffic reporters.
Okay.
At the time that were at WBZ and with our company. I started in
Group W?
Well, it was Shadow Traffic was the name of the company.
Okay.
And they took over doing traffic reports in April of 1997. So I got a part-time job.
Right after you graduated Curry, and we'll talk about that too, because you and I are fellow Curry grads.
And that's part of also my love of radio, is why I went to Curry.
Okay, yeah, and I went to Curry too. All right, so you got that right after after you graduated from Curry a year later. You graduated at Curry in the timeline for my knowledge is you were born in 1974. You graduated high school in 1992. Hanover High School.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And in 1990, and you went right from high school to Curry for 4 years.
Yeah.
And you worked. I actually took a tour of the radio station as a Curry grad too. Now I graduated a few years even before before you started high school. Our timelines are way different. But I took a tour of the radio station immediately because I wanted to see what I liked about it, if there was anything. And I never ended up doing anything there. But I saw the guy that was doing the show at the time was having a blast.
Yeah.
So I guess you did your own show there too, right?
I did, and if you remember, Curry had its own radio station building.
It did, right outside on the north side of the Hafer building, right beside it. I remember.
And it had its own radio station, and so that's why I chose to go to the school. I toured the school with my parents and said they have their own radio station. You can get involved. They wanted students to get involved. They had tons of shifts.
What was your show like at Curry College Radio? What did you do?
Well, it would later develop almost similar into what I'm doing now on ATD in my senior year. But it started out, I just took whatever shift I could get and did a music show.
So you did do DJing,
Yeah, I did a show that mainly played 70s and 80s.
That's okay.
and 90s at the time.
Now, what was the range of the radio station? How far did they reach? I mean, just the campus, or could they go a
Yeah,
little
it's
beyond?
only about 170 watts, so
Okay.
it's pretty much Hyde Park, Dedham,
Yeah.
Milton.
Oh, they should, if somebody
if you
had a
move your
Walkman on at the Arboretum, they could have heard you too.
Yeah, yeah. But if I moved the antenna right at my house, I could get it in my Hanover.
Okay, really?
Believe it or not, yeah.
Not depending on how the wind was blowing.
Depending on,
Yeah,
either
I
that
know.
or Bridgewater State. They're both on the same frequency.
Cool. Okay,
Yeah.
and they have a great station too, as the Stonehill.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's awesome. So between the years so you started at BZ, you didn't start at ATD, correct?
Well, I started at ATD as a very, very part-time position right out of college.
Oh, you did? So where did you start first, BZ or ATD?
It would be technically WATD as a part-time news reporter.
Okay. And that meant you went on the road and you did, and that had me do. He actually had me cover a traffic accident once. That was fun
Yeah.
for me, not for the people in it.
No.
Yeah, obviously, but but what about? Is that what you did? You go on the road and do live reports
It would
on the road?
be mainly covering town meetings at night.
Okay.
So it would be going to
Political
a meeting.
stuff mostly.
Yep,
Yeah.
town meetings, Board of Selectmen meetings.
Okay.
Health board meetings, school committee meetings.
Okay.
You go to a meeting, cover it for hours. Then at that time you had to come back, edit the tape all on a reel-to-reel, and then
Right.
put the audio on a cart,
Yep.
and then write your story, and then leave it for the next day.
And then, write your story, but you didn't have. Did you read it on the air the next day, or did someone else?
I didn't read it. No, I would leave it for the morning people at the
That would
time.
be Christine James was probably still there all those years ago, right?
Yeah,
she's
and
been there a long.
Dave
she's been a long.
Skill.
And I miss Dave. I know he
Yeah.
passed. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he was the guy that was doing the news
Right.
mostly in the morning at that time.
Right. Okay. But eventually, you incorporated yourself into that program. As I recall, you started in 2000 at ATD on a full-time basis, right?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it was November 2000, so that's why
And I remember on November 12, 2010, we went to the Baca Tavern in Situate, and to celebrate that. And Aaron Katursky showed up.
Yep, yeah, he was the first anchor in the morning when I took over the show.
Now he's one of the biggest anchors on the UPI radio network or whatever it is. Out
Yeah,
of New
he's
York.
with ABC out
Right.
of New York.
ABC. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about the people that you've been working with at ATD and NBC too, at first, but I know the people at ATD. So I know that you had Lisa. Lisa has just left. She's been gone a couple of months. Lisa Azizian, she was your sidekick for a few years.
Yeah,
and
in the early
great.
11.
11 was it? Has it 11?
Almost.
Yeah, right. I know it was 11. I know
She said it would have been 11 if she stayed till August.
Right. Okay, because I remember she was at the party, and that was in 2010, right after I started Topic Time.
Yeah, so
Right.
about, and you're right, and that was for the 10th, so it's
Right.
almost been
Okay,
20 years now.
and you had some people before her. You had Sarah Lavoie. I think she was part of the team.
she did the news.
She did the news. And you had some other people.
Yeah.
But now what I've noticed is now you used to go 5 to 9. Now you go 5 to 10. You do an extra hour. And I notice now what you're doing is you're bringing in guest hosts from off the street that are like today you had. Well, I don't mean off the street, but today you had the guy from Tiny and Sons.
Yes.
Okay, I heard that, and it was great. And you come up with these cool features, like a few days ago, I heard you talking about ABBA coming back. I've always been not a closet fan. I admit it. I love ABBA. They're a great band. Their first song, Waterloo, came out the same year you did, 1974, and I was rocking to it in 9th grade at Brockton High School.
How about that?
I know, and so you brought it up, and it was pretty cool to hear that. So you have a nice delivery with fluff stuff and also sports. But I noticed what I'm getting at is that you seem to, because Lisa's gone, you sort of have to handle all the duties now. You can't just do traffic and news. You have to do the fluffy stuff too. Is that true? And then you're good at it. I mean, is that your end of the story? Is that what you would say?
I would say, yeah, that's correct. I mean, without Lisa right now, I have to handle all of the aspects. We can bring in people off the, not necessarily right off the street, but yeah, these are
people that are cool, that sound interesting and have a lot to say.
Some are politicians, some are business owners, some are literally just listeners.
Right, of course.
And I've never met them before. And so they can't come in and necessarily do everything that a trained professional like Lisa could do. So they're mainly there just to talk and be kind of a sidekick.
Exactly. So you need the art of conversation going strong, just like I do for my show. Most of the people I interview, I never knew either, and I never see again after I interview them. But that works for me. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, that's great. So that's what we're doing right now until we find a new...
So you are looking for a new co-host for the morning show.
That's correct. Yep. We've been seeking applications. Lisa left at the end of May.
Yep.
And so I hope to have someone in by October-ish.
Right, I understand.
And, so we're in the final stages now of vetting some candidates.
Okay. So how do you go about screening people for this?
Well, I wrote a job description. Lisa helped me with that.
Okay.
She said, here's what I've done over the 10 years, and I can help come up with a job description. I'd like to have somebody in that has the ability to run the board, and so I can take some vacation time. I'd like to have somebody that can replace me if I'm sick or out. So it's I want to get somebody that has a
Somebody that's
background in radio.
somebody that has your back, literally.
Yes.
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, great voice, skills, able to edit,
Yep.
interview, but also able to do the technical stuff as well. So
Right.
it'd be nice to have a backup person.
Okay. So do you interview people yourself, or does Ed interview them, and then you discuss it?
I have interviewed most of them, and then I brought in Ed Perry,
Okay.
and our owner for
Who's the owner?
Ed Perry.
And your owner. I thought you said.
Oh,
Andy.
yeah.
He is the owner. He's the one and only, the big head honcho.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
so
him. Yep.
he'll be there to help me make the final decision. But
Okay.
he says he trusts me to pick the person.
I'm sure. I'm sure it'll be awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
And it also has to be someone that doesn't mind getting up at 3 in the morning either, 5 days a week.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
It's an early shift.
Okay. All right. Well, tell me about now. I mean, you've been in radio now for 25 years, literally doing it as a career, or 24 years, I guess, if you count. Well, if you count Curry, I mean, that's probably more like almost 30 years because.
Yeah, of just doing radio. You're right.
Right.
Those are my training years. but,
Right.
yeah, it was fun. I'm still doing a show.
Right. Of course. So how is it now? Let's talk about how it's working out at BZ. Now you're still at BZ doing your traffic reports on Saturdays, right?
Yeah, I'm on once a week as a regular shift,
Right.
5 to 1.
Okay, 5 to 1. So now you never worked with Dave Maynard. Your timeline was long after he retired before you started there.
Unfortunately, yeah,
Yeah.
I was very
But
excited.
Did you know him or any of those folks, Joe Green and any?
Well, I mean, I'll tell the story. I went to see Dave Maynard and meet him at the farm stand. I don't know if you remember. They
I
used to
heard.
have-
Sure, I do. Yeah.
They used to have a WBZ farm stand at 1170 Soldiers Field Road.
Yep.
The headquarters. So I went there to get their autographs and
Yep.
meet the personalities. So that's what I would do. I never had a chance to work with him.
I understand. Right. Yeah, I figured that.
My only dream was on Saturday nights was my first WBZ traffic shift. Was Saturday 7 to midnight.
Okay.
And I took that, as a young person at the time, very excited to get into radio, 7 to midnight on a Saturday. And I was excited because
That was when Dave LaValle was doing his show, right?
well, the guy I
Steve
wanted
LaValle,
to work with,
or
Steve
Norm
LaValle-
Nathan, maybe?
Norm Nathan.
I remember.
Yes.
Yeah, he's one of the icons of radio.
So
no
he was going to
question.
be on Saturday nights at 11, and I said, I get to work with Norm
I
for
used
his
to listen
first
to him.
hour.
Yeah,
but
cool.
unfortunately, he passed
Passed
away.
Yeah.
Just before I could do that shift.
Yeah, that's a shame. But you know what? I'm sure he's looking down and thinking you could have mentored anybody.
Yeah, it just would have been fun. I was looking
I know.
forward to that. But yeah, they've got legendary personalities.
I
as
know
you
they do. I know, and some of them are gone, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
now, well, now going forward though? I mean, you really do put a lot of time in between the two stations, 6 days a week. And not much sleep in the morning. You're getting up early every day, and that's pretty impressive that you do that. So, but now but what I'm wondering is, like, say, what do you see yourself in like 10 years? Doing
In 10 years?
Yeah.
Well, I think
even 4 or 5 years. Just looking forward.
Well, I'd say my goal is probably to go down to a 5-day work week instead of the 6 days. I'd like to probably, at some point, maybe not do the traffic on a Saturday if.
Okay.
As I continue to do different roles at the radio station at ATD, we grow the show, and I'm also the director of the programming now as well. So I've
Okay.
taken on some additional duties at ATD. So that would probably be my goal. And then once I hire this new co-host, the show, we could hopefully take it in a new direction and even grow it, I hope.
Okay. Well, but all right. By growing it, what do you mean grow it?
Well, I'd like to try to promote it more and to do more eventually outdoor events once we can start going
Okay.
back outside and doing things and getting the show on the road. You may remember we did that a few
Oh, I know. You
years
do it
ago.
all the time.
That was a lot of fun, but because of COVID, a
Yeah.
lot of the events shut down, and we aren't doing any big events right now.
Right. I thought I heard you, but you're planning something. Like today, I heard there's going to be a theater in the Norwell. There's going to be a play about cats in the Norwell Theater, but everyone's got to be masked up.
That's correct. Yeah, that's a play that we were promoting, but I would love to take the show out again.
I understand. Well, I mean, it'll happen. At some point.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're heading in the right direction. We've all been vaccinated. I feel pretty healthy. You look
Yeah.
pretty healthy.
No, you look too. I'm way over here.
Yeah, I know. We're fine.
Okay.
Now, I still wonder how do you get the traffic report if you're not in a helicopter? How does that go from your brain to somebody else? I mean, how does it get to you?
Well, it's much better, I will say, than it was in 1997. I will say that it's gotten much better. The technology has really made the difference.
What was it like I assume it's all by computer, like computer generated. You can see it on the computer what
in
the traffic looks like.
1997, I looked out the window of the Schrafft's building, and I could see the lower deck, and that's about it.
Yeah,
Other
right,
than that,
because you happen to be there.
yes.
But you only reported the lower deck. Now you have to report basically all the traffic between Boston and Providence. Well, not Providence, but at least probably Bristol County, where the South and the South Coast as well, and the South Shore.
Yes. So what we would do is now. Oh, you're saying now. So what we have now is we still have traffic cameras. We have a lot of cameras that the company owns.
And where are they located? Like right on the highway, right off the highway, so people can actually see the traffic where you are.
The cameras you might see on the highway are state cameras. The state owns those.
Okay.
But the cameras that we would own would be one on the garden.
Okay.
That looks
Boston
down.
Garden?
Yep.
Okay.
One on the state police headquarters that looks at the Bourne Rotary, so they allow us to put a camera on their roof.
That's cool.
And we also have, let's see, what else would be a good camera? We have one on Route 1 in Saugus.
Okay,
on
so
top
you know
of a
sure.
bank.
Yep.
And then there's a couple more. One that watches the Mass Turnpike. It's from the New Balance building.
Okay.
And a few others. There's about a dozen or so.
Cool.
And then, of course, the company flies a helicopter.
Okay, so there is a helicopter involved in getting
There's still a helicopter involved. I've never been in the helicopter.
Right. Smart.
I never really was excited to go up in the helicopter, but they do fly it up 2 hours in the morning and the afternoon, weekdays.
Okay.
And if you watch, Channel 5, 7, 4, 25, and they show the copter footage, that is from the company's copter. It's kind of a pool camera.
What, shadow traffic? Is that what it's called, you said?
Well, now it's called total traffic.
Oh, total traffic, okay.
And, these companies have combined over the years and have merged together, so.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. All right, so that is interesting. So they're the ones that basically, but the helicopter is just an accessory to the cameras that cover the stuff going, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
the camera can tell you what the road's like, and then the helicopter will go to a crash or a specific accident to look for lanes and backups. And
Okay, right.
how long if a road is closed. And then the other way you find out traffic, a lot of people like to use Waze or different apps on their phone.
Yeah.
Waze is great.
Does that actually cut down what you do, though? Because people can find the traffic by doing that without hearing you.
People will say, that they can just enter the stuff into their car and their route. And that will help a little bit, but sometimes having a real-time, the ability to look at something as you're seeing it and telling someone is very helpful. And it saves people still that can get off the highway. By the time it gets to the internet, there's always going to be a lag time, usually, before that information gets to your cell phone or that information gets to Waze.
So it's much quicker from you.
A radio is instantaneous.
Instantaneous, right.
If I can see it and say, this crash has closed the road now or it just opened, that can get somebody a chance to get off the highway right away or plan an additional route on their own. So that's what we do. Now, I will say one of the things, too, is the way that the congestion shows up. If you look at Google Maps, you'll see green or red or yellow.
Okay.
So what that information is taken from is everyone's cell phones.
Okay.
As long as it's on, that cell phone is pinging the speed that your car is traveling at.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't identify you, Harrison.
It doesn't,
driving.
but can it identify ballpark the number of cars that are out there?
It will, yeah.
Okay.
That's why those highway signs that you see now on the highways show you the drive times. That's based on that map.
Yes. Okay.
Now, in the middle of the night, they usually shut off because there's not a lot of data to make an accurate reading.
Okay, that's right. But in the middle of the night, there's a lot less traffic anyway. So
yeah, for the most part.
That's why what I'm wondering was when you were doing the 7 to 12 traffic on BZ. It must have been quite a lull compared to what you do in the morning.
Yeah, it was once an hour,
Right.
and then I would just sit there, and that was my only duty, is to sit in the Schrafft's building alone on a Saturday night, watching the traffic. And in Boston, you might have an incident, and then of course, when I was there, a lot of that was during the big dig, so you get some exciting construction projects.
Big dig, I know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and sometimes there was an episode at the big dig I heard about. Some woman actually lost her life.
Well, I remember, that was in one of the tunnels going to the airport.
Right, I know. I always worried driving through the tunnel. As a kid, even as an adult, if I'm driving through the tunnel, I'm always a little nervous that an earthquake.
Yeah, no, when I was little, I always thought it unusual that we were going under the water.
It was exciting, but it was scary too, just like being in a helicopter.
Yeah, it can be a thrill. And also a little bit of fear.
Yeah, I know. I understand that. All right. So right now. In terms of continuity, how do you when you're ready to start your show, How does that work when the person that you're replacing says signs off? You just say how you doing and walk in and then you start your show, or do you,
When I come in the morning?
yes,
Yeah, so typically we have a live overnight host, as you know.
that's David sometimes.
Yeah,
and
David Wolfson.
Yep.
We have another 4 people that do that shift from 1 to 5 a.m.
Right.
And so they would sign off, play their last song.
Yep.
And then we start with a newscast right at the top of the hour.
Right, and then you have that in sync by computer time. I know that.
Yeah, we take a network news right at the top from a satellite, and now we're an affiliate of CBS.
Right, and then you have the local news with either Christine, and today you had Mr. McCready. He did a great job.
Yeah.
Well, guess what, Rob? We're down to the final 5 minutes of the show.
Oh boy.
Now, ordinarily, I just ask people to, just give shouts out, and we'll do that in a minute. But what I'd like you to do, for Auld Lang Syne, like I might have indicated, sing the song the way you used to introduce me when I was the radio poet, and then I'll have you give the shouts out.
All right, so you want me to do the
H.A. Yeah, go ahead.
Ready? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So it's time now for a poem from Harrison. Harrison spells Harrison. Harrison.
Great job. You still got it.
Hey, there you go.
All
There's
right.
Harrison.
That's good. Well, Rob, like I said, now what I want you to do is to look at that orange light like you're doing now, because that's where you're on.
Okay.
Give shouts out to a few people. I know tons of people are going to see the show, and that's going to be great. But talk to the people that you're closest to, your family, if you want, and then we'll wrap the show up the way we began it with.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Okay.
Well, no, thank you, Harrison, for having me on the show. I'll just make it quick and say, thanks to all my friends and coworkers, and of course, I want to thank my loved ones, specifically my family, of course, my mom and sisters, and all my other special people out there. So thank you.
That's great. I didn't know who they are. All right, and I also say what I also say to everybody after I'm finished an interview is, if you had a good time with me, and if there's anybody that you can think of that could be an interesting interview, whether it's a person at the radio station or a friend or anybody at all, you got my digits now. Have them text me. I get a lot of guests through word of mouth now. I get 98% of them through Facebook, but I'm getting more and more through previous guests, and it's really going well. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but I actually had my 11th anniversary of doing the show on August 18th.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. Where did the time go? But it's just getting better and better.
And growing.
It exactly is. All right. So before we wrap it up completely, is there anything on the horizon that you want to mention that you might have forgotten? Any event that's important enough to just cover real quick?
Any event coming up? Not that I can think of. I'll just say, to listen to the show, 95.9 FM, WATD, and it's 5 to 10 every weekday morning.
Don't forget BZ.
And BZ.
That's also one. That's what's that?
5 to 1 on
Saturdays.
10:30 WBZ. And
AM.
don't forget too, we're also in Brockton now.
Yeah,
on 101.1 FM.
That's right. And Ed owns WMEX now. I'm glad you mentioned that, because now I'm thinking of that. That's incredible.
1510.
And is that the same location as where WBET used to be?
Right now, we're running all the radio stations out of Marshfield.
Okay, out of Enterprise Drive.
Yep,
okay,
that's correct.
And is he planning on expanding physically? Adding more properties
There'll be
for that?
We're hoping to. Yeah, it's just
Okay.
gonna, once we get after COVID, and hopefully
I understand.
we'll start to grow those stations.
We're heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, you did a great job with me.
Thank you.
And thank you for being on my show tonight. We're going to wrap the show up. People of Wareham and vicinity, hope you enjoyed my great interview with the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Rob Hakala. And I'll see you next time. Got a great guest next week, too. Take care. See you then. Have a good one. Bye-bye. There you go.
HARRISON spells Harrison. Harrison.
Great job. You still got it.
Hey, there you go.